There can always be a chorus of people heard who'll justify even a villain's actions. But if he takes pleasures in his murders, then is there any real redemption for him? Velasquez was identified as one of the Medellin cartel's top hitmen, and this immediate admission of guilt is why he continues to be a mystery and enigma to this day. While men succumb to his wrath, his glee and pleasure in these obligatory killings only strengthened. Ordering the death of hundreds was merely a piece of cake for him. The enormity of his actions only came to light after years of his terrifying reign came to a grinding halt. When Pablo's impending doom became a certainty, Velasquez surrendered to authorities in 1992. That's when the truth came to light. He admitted to 257 personal killings, including the kidnapping of then-mayor of Bogotá, Andrés Pastrana Arango, who would later become president of the Republic. The details of this shocking kidnapping only came to light many years later, when the captive and kidnapper finally met. Former President Andrés Pastrana was welcomed by John Jairo Popeye Velasquez Vázquez. As soon as he arrived at the jail in Combita, Boyacá department in 2012. "How life changes," he continued. "I abducted you 25 years ago and now I'm the one being detained." Pastrana, who served as president from 1998 to 2002, was the first Colombian president to film his interaction with his former captive and reveal details to the public. Pastrana, who was a journalist at the time back in 1988, was abducted by order of Pablo Escobar, the notorious leader of the Medellin cartel, in order to put pressure on the Colombian government to stop the extradition of drug dealers to the United States. Since 1983, Pablo had him on his radar, Popeye informs Pastrana in the video. The abduction was carefully planned. Because he stood for so many things, having someone like Pastrana in captivity was like having Colombia and the government wrapped around his finger for a criminal. He was the most significant heir apparent for the Republic. The former president of Colombia served as Escobar's most significant victim at the time and served as a bargaining tool to exert pressure on the administration. He's not only the son of former President Michel Pastrana Borrero, who presided over Colombia from 1970 to 1974, but also a news anchor for a well-known national program and a contender for mayor of Bogotá. On the evening of January 18, 1988, a gang of 10 men stormed Pastrana's campaign office, held him at gunpoint, and forced him into the Mazda 626's trunk. They claimed to be M19 guerrilla group members and explained that their main goal was to communicate with the authorities. When they revealed that they were M19 members, he stayed remarkably composed. He was thrown into the car's trunk by Popeye, and they subsequently loaded him onto a chopper. He never complained. Then, though, came the instant when he realized they were tricking him. Popeye asserted that Pastrana was smart while he was ignorant. He then approached Popeye and compelled him to reveal their identities. Pastrana broke down as John revealed that he was being abducted at Pablo Escobar's request. Popeye informed the news magazine that his world had come tumbling down. Eventually, a fatal coincidence saved Pastrana. His detention facility in Medellin had been encircled by police. Popeye and his crew were also holding the wounded Attorney General Carlos Moro Hoyos nearby. Popeye got a call from Escobar as he was on his way to find a doctor. He advised them to cancel the kidnapping since the police operation was too effective. As a diversion and a scare tactic, they would kill the Attorney General rather than Pastrana. Popeye called a radio station to report the murder shortly after Moro Hoyos was slain. Pastrana's captors threatened to shoot him when the cops showed up at the hiding place where they had him when they arrived. Pastrana was released after one officer offered to take his position. He also indulged in the kidnapping of Francisco Santos, who would later become vice president, alongside the kidnapping and murder of Colombian politician Carlos Moro Hoyos. He was even involved in the murder of Antioquia governor Antonio Roldan Betancourt, as well as a failed mission to kill a police colonel entrusted to Velázquez. The hitman was also found guilty of arranging the 1989 murder of presidential aspirant Luis Carlos Galán, but he was later exonerated when he turned state's evidence against rival 1990 presidential candidate and former justice minister Alberto Santofimio. Galán was shot dead in a public square in a village outside of Bogotá as he prepared to give a speech. Galán, who took a tough stance against the nation's strong drug cartels, was the election favorite, but Popeye had other plans. But these notable names one still remembers. There continues to be a sea of unnamed men whom he confessed to murdering. Up to 3,000 men were murdered through him or via his orders. Everything is fair in love and war. Even love didn't sway him. Velázquez dated Wendy Chavariaga Gil, the ex-lover of his boss Pablo Escobar. They were lying in bed one day when the phone rang, and Pablo Escobar was on the other end. Then Velázquez was given the following options: love or death, money or lead. Velázquez chose plata. He arranged for him and Wendy to meet in a coffee shop. Instead of showing up, Velázquez called the cafe and requested to speak with Wendy. During her phone call, 2 sicarios shot her in the temples. Velázquez drove by shortly after the assault and observed Wendy lying in a pool of blood. This man was clearly unstoppable, and if you think it can't get any worse, prepare to be shocked all over again. The Avianca flight downfall. The public, however, would recall another tragedy, one that still haunts Colombia, which was a civilian airplane blast. Avianca Flight 203 was a Colombian domestic passenger flight from Bogotá's El Dorado International Airport to Cali Alfonso Bonilla Aragon International Airport. On November 27, 1989, it was destroyed by a bomb dropped over the municipality of Soacha. In light of these grisly murders, his sentence still fell short. Velázquez was imprisoned from 1992 to 2014 on charges of terrorism, drug trafficking, extortion, conspiracy for terrorist purposes, and murder. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison, the maximum allowed by Colombian law. Velázquez was involved in armed clashes at La Modelo prison in 2000 and 2001. He was sentenced to 12 years in prison in 2008 for other judicial proceedings against him. On August 22, 2014, he was granted probation after serving 3/5 of his sentence. He was released on August 26, 2014, at the age of 52, after serving 23 years and 3 months in prison. And little did the families who sought solace in his arrest know that their wounds were about to be reopened. His redemption story. One could argue that his time inside a cell must have forced him to introspect, or he sat and waited on how to build a life. This was a man who killed his girlfriend for Pablo and his security. He wasn't one to miss an opportunity. After spending more than 2 decades in prison, John Jairo Velázquez began life as a YouTube star. Velázquez claimed that he decided to go public because he was trying to warn young people away from a life of crime. He set up his YouTube channel, Popeye Arrepentido, also known as Remorseful Popeye. Unsurprisingly, his newfound celebrity status caused distress and offense to some relatives of his victims. Velázquez, who was released from prison in 2014 after serving 22 years, started his YouTube channel earlier this year at the suggestion of a friend. But narco culture was one that people never shied away from. He was startled at how quickly his followers increased. Soon enough, he gained more than 500,000 subscribers. John Jairo's YouTube channel received an award, a silver play button, on January 24, 2017 for having over 100,000 subscribers. He had hoped to make a living from his YouTube channel and claimed that it would be clean money earned through his honest work, but this facade continued to hide sinister plans. Second dance with imprisonment. 2018 would once again be a year of fight or flight for John. Colombian authorities, working with U.S. counterparts, arrested John again, demonstrating how the Andean nation continued to take down key figures in Medellin's criminal world with U.S. assistance. John Jairo Velasquez Vasquez was arrested on May 25, 2018 in Medellin on extortion and criminal conspiracy charges. Mayor Federico Gutierrez was quick to tweet his success and confirm the arrest, but it could have been his slackness that led to his penultimate downfall. Popeye was arrested after appearing with his lawyer at the Organized Crime Prosecutor's Office in Medellin to find out if he was being investigated, according to local media outlets. Popeye was blackmailing frontmen for the late Escobar, who had assets linked to the Medellin cartel's illegal activities. According to El Tiempo, he was attempting to recover property and money that he left in the hands of narcos years ago, and that it was very likely inherited or received by their relatives, who have been pressing and have denounced him. Velasquez was transferred for health reasons from Valledupar Maximum Security Prison to La Picota Prison in Bogotá on December 23, 2019, after being admitted to the hospital for a month. He was diagnosed with terminal esophageal cancer on January 8, 2020, and was given only a few months to live. He died on February 6, 2020, in Bogotá, Colombia, at the age of 57. The reign, or rather terror, of Escobar's era died with Popeye's demise. While the cartel world continues to wreak havoc, none could ever imitate what Pablo and his hitman did. Popeye could easily be remembered for years to come.